Hi.
Hello. Welcome back.
Guess who is back?
Episode 3.
Episode 3. I have to be honest when I say that I honestly thought we would have quit by now.
Yeah, true.
I'm very proud that we have an episode 3.
Yeah, it's definitely been crazy sort of getting this all together. By now we have officially launched.
We have.
So that was really exciting.
Yes. Thank you to all 3 of the people who are listening. No, I'm just kidding. It was more than 3.
I think it was like 22.
It was not a lot, but it was more than 3.
Yeah, definitely. But I will say we do have almost 70 followers on our Instagram page, so I'm looking at every single one of you.
We're watching you. Oh, we're watching.
But definitely excited for this episode today.
Yeah, it should be very fun. It should be very exciting. Today we are talking about vampires.
Vampirism.
I am a vampire.
Bloodsuckers.
Yes.
Stalkers of the night.
That was probably a really hard S. I regret that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that very hard S. But yes, vampires. Vampires are our topic today, and there's so many directions to go in.
I just really, really love the vampire lore. You know what I mean? Like, especially in pop culture, like you get, like there are so many references. I mean, come on. The Lost Boys is definitely probably one of my favorites.
That's true.
I mean,
is one of your favorites.
Kiefer Sutherland as the, that fucking, that mullet, that blonde, like, short on top, long on the back. Honey, he could get it anytime.
I think I would probably have to go with Lestat as my favorite. I feel like that's just, it's probably basic, but I gotta go there. He's just so cute.
I feel that, though.
Yeah, I just can't. What is it about vampires that are so sexy?
I don't know. I think they're dangerous.
They are.
You know what I mean?
They're
mysterious.
Yeah.
So they sort of have this allure behind them.
Well, if you think about it, so vampires descend in the dead of night, and they penetrate women with their fangs, right? And it's usually women, but not always. And they take what they want, and then they leave. Mm-hmm. So in any other context, rape anybody? Some rape action? It kind of sounds like very rapey. But it's interesting how people have kind of taken the vampire lore, because obviously it didn't start off as very sexual, but they've kind of taken it and run with it. And that was something that I was particularly interested in researching actually this week. And so even as far back as like the very beginnings of the vampire lore, there was a poet, for all you literature nerds, who was a contemporary of Lord Byron, who in 1819 wrote a poem called The Vampire. And I recommend, it's way too long for me to read here, but I recommend that everybody go read it. It's very cool. And that way you can reference it at dinner parties and seem like you have your shit together. Right. And you're very cultural because you're referencing
vampire,
Lord Byron era
and
goth stuff.
Want to say we are totally in the
we are. We forgot to tell them because this is a podcast and you can't see what we have right now. But we are currently surrounded by candles, which we are every episode, because we record only by candlelight.
Exactly. But instead of our hot tea today...
This is true. We're going to be slurping something else in your ear.
We are slurping down this wine that I purchased a couple months ago from World Market. It is called Vampire Wine. And it comes in a really, really cute little black cardboard...
Coffin.
It's
too cute.
So yeah, and I just want to take a quick cheers to
we should.
Other half here of the Haunted Heart, and just say congratulations again on episode 3.
On the fact that we're here.
And that we're here, we're doing this damn thing, and so let's get into it. Cheers.
Cool. That's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
No, that's not. I thought it was going to be terrible.
got a... Do they call that a long finish, or is that like an aftertaste? At what point do we get into...
Honey, a long finish. That's me on a Saturday night, honey.
Also, we should probably mention that Vampire has not sponsored us. Spanked us?
No, they
haven't spanked us either.
But
I mean, they
we're
could. I mean, you should always stay open. That's my motto. But they haven't sponsored us. We have no sponsorship, obviously. We already talked about this on the last episode. Trash talent. No sponsorship.
Exactly.
No actual skills or abilities either.
The sort of vibe that we've got going on with the wine and the candles just really sort of lends itself to that sort of sexual vibe that...
I mean, are you trying to, like, tell me something?
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
That's a long lead-in. That's like a 15-year lead-in, sir. We have been friends for 15 years.
No.
So, anyway, I appreciate the segue effort that you were making. I appreciate it. Anyway, we first got sexy with vampires on film in 1971 in the film Dracula versus Frankenstein. And I haven't seen that film, I'm sad to say, but we are going to watch that film because if you Google the poster for that movie, it is like straight up pornographic level. Like there's like Dracula, and then of course he's like standing behind this like super big boob having like vixen looking lady, and then there's two other women that are like on their backs like with their knees spread open for like really no reason, and they're kind of like photoshopped. It's odd.
I don't think they had Photoshop back then, but
I don't know, they're just like drawn like slightly like on a tilt on the front of the poster. It's very odd. But we're gonna watch that film.
I haven't seen it, which is, I'm all about watching the horror movies, so I'm down.
Yeah, it should be good too because it's from 71 when stuff was raw. But that was that movie had the first actual sex scene. And I think it had sex scenes because it was described as almost pornographic.
Well, back then. Is it really?
I don't know, though. I've seen some movies from the 70s where it's like, wow. I mean...
ahead of their time.
Huh. Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. So we'll have to report back on that one. But anyway, then from there, it just got more sexual. Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1992, which I have seen. That's the one that features Gary Oldman as Dracula. That one was super sexual.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, that movie, Gary Oldman in that movie was doing the most.
See, little me, when I was watching that, was less concerned with the sexual part of it, and but little gay me was definitely into the fashion. Like,
that's true.
I loved the costume design in that movie. It was fantastic.
It was Gary Oldman in that film. There's something there because I don't think Gary Oldman is attractive.
No,
I kind of feel like he looks like his name.
Yeah,
and that's about as far as I'm gonna go on that one, but. For some reason in that movie, I just think he's so attractive with those stupid round glasses that he has. Like something about his like movement or whatever, or maybe it's the fact that he sucks blood out of people. I don't know. Well, for whatever reason, he does it for me in that movie. And then obviously, we have the more obvious references. We have Twilight.
Boo.
We have to mention
Boo.
Twilight. We have True Blood, which was hypersexual.
Yeah, very sexual.
And we have Anne Rice.
Yeah.
So basically, I kind of researched what actual scientist people had to say about why human beings put so much sexuality into the vampire lore, because it really wasn't there from the beginning. It was much more, if you go back to the early tales of vampirism, it was much more like werewolves, where it was about consuming something. But then, like, we had this weird shift where it all became like super sexy, and basically, there was a really, really good. I have to call out this article. There was a really good article on NBC News of all places. And it was called Sexploration. Did you know that there's a section of NBC News website that is called Sexploration?
Well, I didn't, but now that I do, I feel very informed.
Yes. It is so interesting. I was like, okay, NBC News, way to go, way to educate. But yeah, so on this Sexploration section of their website, this doctor whose last name is Styles, thank you, cut and paste, she said that fetishism, deviance, and perversion all play out in vampire literature. The sexual undercurrents are not hard to see. You have penetration and an exchange of bodily fluids. Mm-hmm. And the vampire has mesmeric powers. He's very seductive. And it's an easy, veiled way to write about sex without censorship, which I hadn't actually considered.
That makes sense.
Yeah. That it's kind of exploring fetishism and things like that people might be uncomfortable with in more of a real life situation than in a fantasy setting. All of a sudden they can kind of open up and explore those things with submissive and dominant personalities and BDSM and
I kind of sort of see a little bit of that like with other horror movies of, you know, the time or a little bit earlier. Like if you think about it, there's always that sort of helpless like woman or damsel in distress who's sort of being abducted by the monster. Like if you look at The Creature from the Black Lagoon, or you look at, you know, even King Kong, like, you know what I mean? There's always that sort of like submissive, like, you know, character who's sort of being taken. She's being grabbed and enveloped by this monster, this sort of energy, and so that sort of lends itself to that sort of like submissive BDSM sexual undertones, I sort of feel like. Yeah,
and I think it's also a way, and this may be like, I think it's cool that the vampirism lore can kind of be sort of a veiled way of exploring fetishism and things like that. Maybe the more negative side of that, just to be a negative Nancy, the more negative side of that is like it's kind of a way to explore sexuality with the woman still being like not really an engaged part of it. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like it's kind of like you don't doubt, and they kind of got into this a little bit in that Sexploration article, that you don't dislike the woman or judge the woman or make any like think poorly of her because she, you know, all of this is being done to her. You know, she's like an object. Sort of objectified, but it's like, it's kind of, which is why I kind of like things like True Blood, because it took that and then redefined it, because Sookie in True Blood is very, she's a troublesome character. I have had my issues with Sookie, definitely. Anna Paquin, fight me. But no, so I liked what True Blood did with kind of redefining that, because the women in that were very much not helpless. They were not, you know, the victims of vampires. Instead, in a lot of cases, they were, you know, actively pursuing vampires or actively being pursued by, you know. So it was just kind of I enjoyed that redefining of the medium.
In a way, you know, she sort of controlled them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It definitely, in a really handicapped and dumb way, a lot of the times. It was imperfect, but it was a step in the right direction, moving towards, you know. I'm trying to think of films that have empowered female vampires, but I can't think of...
Well, Underworld.
But is she a werewolf? I thought she was a werewolf.
No, she's a vampire.
Oh, she's not a Lycan.
No, she's a vampire.
She was in love with a Lycan.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Yes. So also crossing boundaries there.
Yeah.
She was very powerful.
She's so hot.
And you know, and another one that I actually, and you'll have to forgive me because I have not seen this in a while, but in Interview with the Vampire, the little girl,
I want to say Claudette. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong.
Well, but anyway, I really sort of appreciate, like, yes, she's a little girl, but she's still very powerful.
Yeah.
You know, so I think, you know, characters like that sort of really interest me. I love a good kick-ass female vampire.
And I feel like we can't do a vampire episode without mentioning Let the Right One In.
I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen that?
Nope.
Oh my God. It's so good. I wish I had studied more on it.
Claudia. Claudia was her name. I knew it started with the C.
There you go. Not Claudette. Claudette is from Georgia. Potentially also a vampire, but a nice old Southern lady vampire.
Yeah.
No, Let the Right One In is so good. It's either Swedish or Norwegian. I'm probably entirely wrong. I know they did a remake of it, but you should watch the original one. It's really, really, really good. They kind of it plays with that that part of vampire mythology where they can't come into your house unless you invite them in. And there's a really beautiful scene involving that, and I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but it used to be on Netflix. I think it may still be on there.
I think it is. I think I've seen it.
I'm sure you can stream it from somewhere if not, but I would definitely recommend that everybody take a look at that. That film is such a beautiful work of art. I mean, it transcends horror. It's really a work of art. You should check it out.
I'll have to do that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's and we can't also forget Lady Gaga. American Horror Story.
Oh, yeah.
The Countess.
For sure.
Totally.
That's Faye. Yeah. That was kind of a redefining as well.
I mean, just, yes. All the way around. Mm-hmm. So.
Mm-hmm. Your boy here's got a jawline for days. I know you were waiting on it. You were waiting. That's my favorite line from that whole, season of that show.
Yeah, that was good.
Because if you watch that scene, she doesn't actually ever finish the word days. I'm pretty sure they just cut the shot. She just goes days. And
then they just start playing Hotel California.
Yeah, they just play her out. She doesn't actually finish the word days. So, which is beautiful. I want to meet, my dream is to date a guy and meet his mom. And have the first thing I say to her be, your boy there's got a jawline for days. I just want to do that. And then probably the relationship is over. Because I don't know how you come back from that.
I don't know either.
So, anyway, tangent.
Yeah.
Tangent train. We are on it.
But...
We're drinking wine this episode,
We are drinking
people.
wine, honey, so we're getting there. We're getting to that point.
It's also hot.
But,
it's hot
well, we
here.
have 37 candles lit.
Yes, and it is 77 outside. Why?
And you turned off my fan before we started this. So.
Okay, I'm just not trying to have all that
and you're
terrible
also
noise
not
on
wearing
our
pants.
high-quality podcast. My thighs are sweaty.
You're not wearing pants.
Specifically my thighs, and only my thighs. Is that a sign of a disease? Is that some particular kind of cancer? What's going on?
Maybe it's vampirism.
You just really sweaty thighs. Everybody forgot to mention it in the literature, but your thighs are just very sweaty.
Yeah.
Maybe. My thighs get sweaty when I watch Queer Eye, the new season, or the new series. When I watch Anthony.
That sounds like a good vampire name, doesn't it?
What if he is a vampire? What if he is a queer vampire who specializes in making delicious food, also is adorable in that cute little boy next door way? I'm in love with a gay man. I am in love with a gay man, and his name is Anthony.
Well, yeah, I would have to completely agree. But, we're talking all of this about how sexual and sexy vampires are and how much, you want to get fanged.
Get fanged.
But
I like that. That should be a t-shirt.
Yeah, get fanged, man. We'll sell that one along with hashtag trash talent.
There you go. We'll sell it to who? To ourselves.
To myself.
To ourselves is the answer.
I'm gonna print it on my new little t-shirt press that I'm gonna get. Yeah. So I'm gonna make it for us.
We're so sad. We are so sad. Please listen to our podcast.
I think we are so talent right now.
So talent.
But
okay, we actually have to talk about vampires at some point in this episode. We have got to actually talk about vampires.
Well, the history of
people
vampires...
People are going to think we didn't do any Google searches.
And vampirism, it's very long. But it's not as clear as one, sort of would think. Mm-hmm. Before we had all of the, the perfect hair, before the 80s party vampire, before Stoker and Lugosi, there have always existed tales of the vampire. And as humans, one of our most ancient fears is what? That of the unknown, or death, specifically. And during times of tragedy is typically where you can find tales of the vampire sort of creeping up from the coffin. Specifically times of plague and disease. Before forensics and science ever became a thing, people had no idea why certain things happened. They had no idea how germs spread or why the body does certain things after death. And as humans, naturally, we had to, create a reasoning behind that. And of course, vampires sort of became a part of that history. So if, say, a person were to fall ill, the belief was that someone was making them ill from beyond the grave. This spirit or entity was sucking the life force out of the living.
I'm going to try that next time I have to call out of work. I'm just going to say that a spirit beyond the grave is sucking my life force out of me and see if that works for a sick day. What
you would need to do, or I would, as your boss, I would tell you that you would then need to protect yourself from those beings and then come to work.
Oh, God.
And, they're...
Just come to work draped in garlic.
Exactly.
Just garlic everywhere. A suit of garlic.
Now, there are different methods that have been discovered all across the world. And in some places, they'd shove a stone in the deceased's mouth because they believe that prevented them from coming back and feasting on the living. So we could shove a stone in your mouth, Katie. Sometimes they would stake them. Sometimes they'd burn them or decapitate them, which is still all modern sort of aspects of vampirism that we sort of see today, So that's sort of where that came from. And because we had no idea how decomposition worked when we'd dig up these bodies, sometimes they'd see like this nasty fluid and blood around the mouth, or the gums would recede and expose the teeth, or even when people were buried alive, because that happened quite often, which is terrifying. And they had the scratch marks to prove it in the coffin.
Because that was a thing, because they had to start putting the bells with the string that went all the way down into the coffin, because they had buried... Think about this. You've probably already heard this story, but take a second, listen to it as though you're hearing it for the first time, and really comprehend the words that I am saying to you. They buried so many people alive that they had to find a solution for burying people alive.
Exactly.
What if you were on the front end of that curve when everybody was getting buried frickin' alive? But anyway, if you haven't heard what the solution was, they would basically have a bell up by the gravestone, and then they would run a string down through the grave and all the dirt and stuff and into the coffin, so that if you suddenly woke from a deep slumber and found yourself buried 6 feet under, you could pull the string and then ring the bell.
Could you imagine? I would be so pissed. I would come back up and I would just look at every fucking body.
Definitely the worst day.
Mother, excuse you.
I mean... Well, see, and then what started happening was, as you decay, I'm really weird, so I watch all the documentaries on body farms and things like that, and what happens with decomposition and what various stages of decomposition are. As you decay, your body lets off a lot of gases, and as stuff is decaying, a lot of pressure builds up, and then sometimes what would happen is that all the bells would start ringing at once in the graveyard. So that's why you have a graveyard keeper. It's not just to be a creepy horror trope. It actually was a thing at one point in time.
Yeah. And what's really kind of gross though is that if they ever thought that someone was a vampire and they would exhume them, see this blood or whatever bodily fluid was being excreted.
There's a lot of options for bodily
gases.
fluids.
They would sometimes consume the flesh
of the
blood.
Proposed vampire?
Yeah.
So people would dig people up, and if they thought they were vampires, they would eat them.
Yep. They would grind their bones and their or sometimes drink their blood because they felt that it was protecting them from the vampire, like it was killing the vampire. Which is a great way to prevent the plague from spreading, right?
Wow. Let's just eat a lot of decomposing people.
That's a great solution. But what's really interesting is that in parts of the world where cremation was a common practice, you don't find too many stories of vampirism.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because that's it. Like, you're done.
There's no, you're dust. So going into that, there's actually a case that happened here in America. We've heard of Dracula, but have you ever heard of Mercy Brown?
I have not heard of Mercy Brown.
Ooh, Mercy Brown. She was a part of the great New England vampire scare. They had them New Englanders, they go from one thing or another versus witches,
vampires.
Vampires, exactly. So she lived in Rhode Island. And she was essentially, this was like late 19th century. Civil War casualties had taken the toll on the community that they were living in. The new railroads that were promised to come in didn't. And by 1892, the year Lena died, her hometown population had dipped to just 961 from more than almost 3,000.
Wow.
Farms were abandoned, seized, and burned by the government. So it was a really trying time. And tuberculosis was a huge part of that, or consumption, as it was called, had started to, plague the area. And this poor girl had fallen victim. The Brown family began to succumb to the disease, and her mother died first. Her sister was 20 years old and a dressmaker, died the next year. And herself, she followed shortly after. And then her brother, this is where it starts to get really interesting. Her brother was described as a big, husky young man.
I can't believe that word was around even then.
Oh, yeah.
Even
husky
then.
was then. A big, husky young man.
1992. You can't escape the husky. Actually, I don't think it's a thing now. I don't think they subject kids to that
JCPenney,
now.
early 90s, you are a 12 husky.
God, I remember that. They had that shit for girls, too. Like, it was not just a guy thing.
True. I know. Because I wore them. I was a husky and a short. A jean short. I was a husky.
A jort.
Yeah.
God, can we just take a moment to collectively mourn our past of freaking husky-sized jorts?
Well, so then, so he was a healthy man, is what they're trying to say. Mm-hmm. He was a strong man.
I respect it. It takes a lot to be husky in 1892.
Exactly. So he started getting sick. So what did they say? Go change your climate. Go to Colorado Springs. That'll improve your health.
That's what doctors will tell you now. The other day, my doctor told me that.
Did he really?
Just go to Colorado Springs, and then you will be healthy.
Just travel. Get a change of climate.
Specifically to Colorado Springs.
We have disease, right? So let's travel and spread that.
My thing is, I can never travel to Colorado Springs because I watch Homicide Hunter Joe Kenda, and that's about all these horrible crimes that he solved in Colorado Springs. So I can't go there. It's not in my safe list of places.
Well, yeah.
I'm sorry, everyone from Colorado Springs who's listening to this.
Well, he came back. He came back in a dying condition.
See, there you go. There you go. Get out of Colorado Springs.
So yeah, not a very good fate for him, but sort of what, the townspeople sort of came together, and they were also fearful for their own health. They really just weren't content with praying for him. So they were like, no, something's wrong, something's going on. So they essentially accused his family members from beyond the grave of being vampires and causing, causing his illness from beyond the grave. they were secretly feasting on the living tissue and the blood of Edwin, and they sort of persuaded him that if the offending corpse, and they did use the term vampire, was discovered and destroyed, then he would obviously recover from his illness. So the neighbors asked to exhume the bodies in order to check for fresh blood in their hearts. So, they gave permission, and on the morning of March 17th, 1892, a party of men dug up the bodies as the family doctor and a journal correspondent looked on. After nearly a decade, Lena's sister and mother were barely more than bones. Lena, though, had been dead only a few months, and she had been buried in the wintertime. So her body was still fairly well preserved because of that. But again, looking back on it, they look and see, okay, she's been dead for a couple months. She's well preserved. This is the offending spirit or vampire. Her heart and liver was removed, and in cutting open the heart, clotted and decomposed blood was found. And during this impromptu autopsy, the doctor again emphasized that Lena's lungs showed diffuse tuberculous germs. But undeterred, the villagers...
Which I'm sure was really safe
to be touching,
to cut open tuberculosis
exactly.
lung and just suck all that down.
Well, here we go. So the villagers, they didn't care. So they burned her heart and a liver on a nearby rock and fed Edwin the ashes of his sister.
Of his sister's tuberculosis-riddled corpse.
Exactly. And
seems healthy. It seems like an answer.
Well, he died less than 2 months later.
There you go.
But what's really interesting about this story is that, obviously this started making headlines. It made the New York World, which found its way into the papers of a London stage manager and aspiring novelist named Bram Stoker, whose theater company was touring the United States that same year. His Gothic masterpiece, Dracula, was published in 1897. Now, some scholars have said that there wasn't enough time for the news accounts to have influenced the Dracula manuscript, yet others see Lena in the character of Lucy, her very name sort of being a merger of Lena and Mercy, a consumptive-seeming teenage girl turned vampire who is exhumed in one of the novel's most memorable scenes. Fascinatingly, a medical doctor presides over Lucy's disinterment, just as one oversaw Lena's. Or Mercy. I should say Mercy. It was Lena, but her name was Mercy, but they did call her Lena.
Oh, okay. So that was like her nickname.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was an interesting
I kept wondering why Lena kept coming up. I was like, who is this?
Yeah, no, they... that's what it was. Her nickname was Lena and Mercy, so that's why they sort of get Lucy from that, from the novel. So some people say that, it's just a coincidence, but it's interesting to think about.
It is. No.
There are some similarities there between the two cases, which I thought was really interesting.
I mean, I feel like 1892, 1897, that's only like 5 years. And in like a time before Netflix and all this other shit that wastes our time, you could probably write a novel in like 3 or 4 years. I mean, people write a novel in like a month, like November is National Novel Writing Month.
Well, the New York clipping, the news happened in 1896.
Oh, so okay. So we've got like a year.
The article happened in 1896, so that's when he found it or read about it, and then his novel came in 1897. But
maybe he was just feverishly inspired.
Yeah, I mean, or he could have added it in late. You know what I mean? Like, he could have added it in. I think it's an interesting coincidence to talk about. So,
yeah.
But yeah, very that's sort of the case of Mercy Brown, America's most famous vampire, actually.
Well, vampires, and we kind of talked about this a bit, they're not necessarily... You mentioned that in cultures that cremate their dead, they're less prevalent. But vampires are a global phenomenon. I mean, there are stories from... We always think of, like, Romania or Transylvania or creepy places like that where... I say that jokingly. Romania and Transylvania are, like, not actually... Yeah. Anyway. Well, Transylvania is not real. So I guess I don't have to worry about offending Transylvanians because that's not real. That's not a real thing. Anyway, Romania, I love you. I'm sorry. God, I feel like I'm just digging a hell of a hole to get out of. Anyway, global phenomenon. But you may not think of Australia as a particularly vampire-heavy society.
Here we go, back in Australia.
Back in Australia. That's actually the theme of our podcast. It's not actually like haunted heart and creepy things and like dark topics. It's actually just a podcast about Australia.
About the horrible things that come out of Australia.
Just every episode is about Australia.
We could probably have an episode dedicated to Australia.
We probably should, actually. We should write that down. Anyway, Australia, specifically Brisbane, which is located in Queensland, Australia. I have been there, but I have only been to the airport, so I can't really count it. October 1989, so very recent, somewhat.
2 months after I was born.
Exactly. It must be too much of a coincidence. No. Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, October 1989. We have a group of 4 women. We have Tracey Wigginton.
Nice.
We have Elisa Tashinsky.
Good.
That's a really good name for the mic. I feel like this is going to go well.
Good.
Tashinsky. Lots of we have Kim Jervis.
Okay.
And we have Tracy Whoa. And this, if you don't recognize any of those names, specifically Tracey Wigginton, is the story of the lesbian vampire murderer.
Ooh, lesbian.
Yes.
Serving you some lesbian vampire realness.
I am serving
today.
lesbian vampire murderer realness for you. Australian lesbian vampire murderer realness.
Yeah.
So, Tracey Wigginton and Lisa Tashinsky, they are actually dating. So Tracy's 25, Lisa's 24. They met at a gay club in Brisbane, and they shared an obsession with the occult.
Nice.
And they met Kim Jervis and Tracy Woe, who are both age 23. I'm not sure if they also met them at that same club or I'm not sure how they came into the picture, but basically you have this group of women who are all interested in the occult and things of that nature. And Tracy professes to be a vampire. So all of this comes out kind of after the fact, but apparently... well, we'll get into that a little bit later. Basically what happens is they're walking home from the club one night. They come across Edward Baldock. Edward Baldock was a father of 5. He was 47 years old. And he was walking home from the pub. I think they call it a pub in Australia, not a bar.
Okay.
He's walking home from the pub. He's pretty intoxicated. They said that they thought he was he was more than a little bit buzzed. He was like pretty heavily drunk. Yeah, I mean, he was on one.
Tore out the frame,
as Drake would
they say.
Yes, he was definitely on one. And he runs into these women. And they lure him into their car at a place called Kangaroo Point, which is by this river, Brisbane River, I think is what it's called. I'm not from Australia. Please don't sue me. So the girls lure Baldock into their car, and then they drive him a little ways down the road next to this river. And they lure him, obviously, maybe not obviously, but they lure him with the promise of sex. And... They take him a little ways down the road, and then Tracey Wigginton stabs him 27 times.
Damn.
I watched this documentary. It was actually it was a pretty decent documentary. It was called Great Crimes and Trials. And I don't know if it's specific to Australia, but everybody had an accent, and it was beautiful. It was much better than this because all these like cool names like Wigginton, like they were pronounced like the way they're supposed to be. But I highly recommend it. It's free. It's on YouTube. The detective on that show, though, said that the only thing holding Edward Baldock's head to his body was just the spine.
Ooh.
They said that his throat was basically slit ear to ear, and he was found totally naked, wearing only socks.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very, 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 very brutal. So
was it just the one girl that did? So was it just the one girl who did it, or?
Well, that's what we get into with the trial. So detectives find Edward Baldock on, by this river, because they just left him there with 27 stab wounds, and they identified him because his ATM card was in his wallet, and so they. Very quickly, one of the first things I'm sure that they would do is to look for a wallet, and he still had his wallet on him. They pulled out his ATM card, and it had his name on it, so that's how they ID'd the body. And then, interestingly, his shoes were found a little ways away. The girls didn't take anything with them. His shoes were found a little ways away, and in his shoe was another ATM card that had Tracey Wigginton's name on it.
Interesting.
So her ATM card was found in his shoe. And that's how they kind of got her. So relatively quickly, they were able to arrest her. She was sentenced in 1991, almost immediately. Her sentencing lasted 9 minutes. That was how long the deliberation lasted of the jury. And then she was found unanimously guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. And then the other 3 women were also tried. But that's when things kind of got interesting, because up until this point, it was just a murder that was unusual because it was perpetrated by women, particularly a group of women, but it hadn't picked up national news coverage yet. So when the other 3 women, Lisa, Kim, and the other Tracy without an E, Tracey Woe, were charged, they claimed that they were innocent and under the spell of a lesbian vampire killer, one Tracey Wigginton. So, the women, Lisa Paczynski in particular, said that Tracey couldn't eat solid food, that she had to drink blood. They said that she had had animal blood, and Lisa also said that she had slit her wrists to feed Tracey blood. And the girls, they were all into it. They were really all kind of jiving on that occult train, which can be a scary place to be, the occult train.
Sounds like a solid, healthy relationship.
Yeah, I feel like, okay, here's the thing. We're going to take a moment out. If you are currently in a relationship in which you are having to slit your own wrists so that your partner can literally feed off of you, you should go. Call somebody. Call anybody. Heck, call us. Can we give our phone number out? Can we do
absolutely
that? Should we not?
I'm not
call
involved.
Somebody. I'm going to tell you who to call. Call 911.
I'm not involved. I'm more of the idea, hey, as long as there's consent, y'all do you. But don't.
No, you have to go. I'm going to put my foot down at slitting your wrist to feed your partner blood. Because if somebody is literally feeding off of you, like the metaphorical meaning of that, just all of it, it's not good.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, but, people gonna do what they do sometimes.
It's not good. I'm going to say call somebody. But basically, Lisa, so these are the stories that Lisa's saying, and the other girls are backing it up. Apparently, all 4 of them had hatched a plan to kill someone to feed Tracey. And they attempted to actually do this a couple times before. They had gone to the gay club that they frequented with knives. All of them were carrying knives and kind of like an active premeditation for sure.
Honey, you could just take me to the McDonald's. Give me a 20-piece chicken McNugget, honey, and you'll feed me.
Right? With some honey mustard? Yeah.
I mean, that's all I ask. You can go to the gay club all you want to, honey.
Right.
And then, listen, Katie, I'll buy you a chicken McNugget. You buy me a chicken McNugget.
There we go.
I'm feeding you. You're feeding me.
It's a beautiful relationship. Nobody's slitting any wrists.
That is a healthy relationship.
Neither one of us. Unless they forget my honey mustard, in which case you better open it
up.
Or
the fucking sriracha mac sauce that they refuse to give ketchup. Me. So and then that's when we become vampire murderers, Katie.
I mean, it's a slippery slope. So anyway, to get back into this heavily serious topic, the other girls said that Tracey acted alone. They said that they were there. Tracey Woe said that she was in the car, and a couple of the other girls corroborated that. But the other girls said that Tracey stabbed stabbed Baldock so many times in the back that she actually made a hole about the size of a dinner plate in his back. And that after she had finished stabbing him, she put her face to this hole and drank his blood. And then she went and washed off in the river, which was right beside the murder scene. Afterwards, the girls asked Wigginton if she'd fed, and she answered yes. And then they just went home to their separate houses.
So she just dropped her ATM card while she was, like, trying to wash her face? Like, how did her ATM card end up in his shoe?
I mean, I guess when you're stabbing somebody, I don't know.
But in his shoe?
Well, we'll get to that. So the girls went home. Kim Jervis is the one who took the knife and washed it at her place. So she had the murder weapon. Lisa Pachinski's defense tried to make it seem like she was depressed and suicidal. Basically, they focused a lot on her mental health issues and things like that. It didn't fly. She was convicted. Lisa Pachinski was convicted of murder. Tracey Woe attended court with her parents. She was the only person who was tried. She was the only one of the women who was tried that her parents actually showed up to court with her. She did her hair. She wore a really nice looking frock. They made a big point to call this out in the documentary because they said that she really did look the part of a girl her age. So at 23, she wore a nice frock. She did her hair. She brought her parents. She didn't wear makeup. They made a point to tell me that. I don't know why it's important. But basically she put forth this like good girl persona, and her defense was basically that she was a very good girl who got caught up in something that was beyond her control, and she was in the car the whole time and blah, blah, blah. She actually didn't get convicted.
Wow.
Of anything. She was not convicted. Which is astounding to me. In the end, Tracey Wigginton obviously was convicted. They took 9 minutes to deliberate. She was sentenced to life in prison. Pachinski was convicted of murder. Jarvis was convicted of murder. And Woe was cleared.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So Kim Jervis was granted parole in 1996 after serving only 5 years. Keep in mind, that is the person who took the murder weapon home and cleaned the murder weapon. 5 years in prison. In 2009, Lisa Pachinski was released on parole at age 43. And then in 2012, this is the part you're really going to love. In 2012, Tracey Wigginton after filing 4 failed parole applications, was granted parole on her 5th application.
Oh, wow.
2012, at the age of 47, I believe, which is particularly interesting. I think, darn, I wish I had this detail. I'm pretty sure it was either age 46 or age 47, but if you'll recall, Edward Baldock was age 47 when he died. But she was released at, like, age 46 or 47 on parole from prison after murdering him.
Mm.
Yeah. And she's totally free and in the clear.
What's she up to now?
Who knows? She probably has another name, I'm sure. There are actually, if you Google this case, or if you just Google her name, the articles that come up first are the articles written by Australians bitching that now she's like living off of the government because nobody will hire her because she's a lesbian vampire murderer. So It's like this weird welfare debate now in Australia. It's very interesting. But I still haven't answered your question.
Oh, about the debit card or the ATM card.
So how did the bank card get into the shoe?
How did it get in the shoe? I want to know.
There are a couple of theories, but the most plausible one was put forth by detectives. When Tracey took off a piece of her clothing, remember I told you that she was trying to seduce him, basically? When she took off a piece of her clothing, it may have been a shirt or whatever, they think that her bank card fell out. And in the semi-darkness, Edward Baldock must have seen it. And he was always a very neat and tidy type person. So in the near darkness, he must have seen it, thought it was his bank card.
And put it in his shoe.
And slipped it into his shoe. Actually, after the fact, because it was from the same bank. The cards looked exactly identical except for the name that was listed on it. So he could have totally thought it was his. Tracey actually realized that she had lost her bank card. And they returned to the scene later that night to get it. But she couldn't find it.
Because she didn't check the shoe.
And if the detective who was in the documentary that I watched about it, he said that had that not happened, they may have never caught her because they had nothing to tie her to that crime. And, it was back in, like, the late 80s, so they would have never believed, I mean, they even said this on the documentary themselves, they would have never believed that a woman would be guilty of this crime, much less a group of women could be guilty of a crime like this.
I mean, right.
It was so brutal.
All they would have to have done was put on, like you said, that good girl persona, and, I don't know.
Right.
Oh, and we're also, like, I mean, you maybe could even play up the lesbian card. Like, I ain't got nothing to do with him. Why would I try to take him out and seduce him? I'm with girls. You know what I mean? Like, I could see it being, I could see that happening, which is really interesting that, that one little moment where he saw that, he happened to see that ATM card and put it in his shoe, that caught his killer.
Right. I love stories like that where, I hate, don't get me wrong, I hate stories like this because you still have the father of 5 children who is now gone and has been gone from those children's lives. So it's still a terrible, terrible story, but I love when there's that little bit of redemption where, that one thing that he did caught his killer. And if he hadn't had that was something that they talked about had kind of been a part of his personality forever. He was very neat and very tidy and very, so even, as drunk as he was at that particular time, that was still a key part of him. And it ended up being the thing that caught his killer.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Reminder to start keeping things in my shoe now if I see them out. If I'm ever out in the middle of nowhere.
There you go.
I'm going to put it in my shoe.
There you go.
Keep it safe in case you try to kill me.
Only I know the secret, so I know to check your shoes.
Yeah, except...
As does everyone else who listens to the Haunted Heart podcast. See, this is the information that we're giving you, people. Practical things.
Very much so. Wow. Lesbian vampires. You know what?
Lesbian vampire murder.
I'll leave it to you to bring in the lesbian vampires.
There you go. You got to put a twist on it, right?
Yeah, and then that's the twist. We got to talk about sex. You got to talk about the nitty-gritty sort of birth of how vampirism started and consuming, plagued flesh to protect yourself
just a little tuberculosis
from the plague.
It's a delicacy. It's a delicacy.
She had tuberculosis. Give me a straw.
Just kind of, get in there.
And that'll take care of you, or, if you're feeling under the weather, go to Colorado Springs.
There you go. That is the key takeaway from this episode.
And Australia.
Go to Colorado Springs.
Australia has the lesbian vampires. So I'm kind of interested to, sort of play a fun little game. We've been a little kind of serious, but not really. But
a little serious.
It's been a little serious, but I think this is kind of fun. So this is a little game I made up, and it's called Stake or Take.
Stake or Take. All right.
Tell me more. Coffin.
Okay. Okay.
So, I have a list of very popular vampires. So,
ooh, okay.
Vampire characters. And I'm going to go through and list 2 at a time. And I'm going to tell you stake or take. So, if you stake one, that's the one that you're killing. If you're taking them, that's the one you're taking to the next round. Okay, you guys should play along with this and write down your answers or type out your answers or whatever and send them to us. You can email them to us, the Haunted Heart Podcast at gmail.com. Or you can comment on Instagram or DM us on Instagram. Slide up in them DMs. So the Haunted Heart Podcast at gmail.com or the Haunted Heart Podcast on Instagram, I think. So
you'll find us.
And so I'm just curious to know which vampire will come out victorious for you.
Okay.
So, first round. Bela Lugosi's Dracula. Oh, also, did you know that they buried him in his cloak?
Yes,
his Dracula
I did.
Cloak?
I did know that.
So cool.
I did know that. That's very sweet.
or Lestat?
Definitely Lestat. I respect Bella, but he could be like vampire granddaddy, not daddy.
So he's the one that you are going to take.
Yes, I will take Lestat. I will stake Bella.
All right, so Bella is gone. Sorry, Bella.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so round 2.
Mm-hmm.
Celine from Underworld.
Ooh, she is really hot. I mentioned that.
Or Edward Cullen.
Definitely Celine. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Celine. Period.
So you're staking that damn
I'm staking Edward twice. I'm staking him 2 times.
Are you pulling the lesbian vampire and like...
I am.
Just destroying him?
I'm going to stake him twice.
Okay. Eric Northman.
Ooh, one of my favorites.
Or Bill Compton.
Eric Northman. Are you kidding me? That's not even... So I'm taking every last bit of Edward Northman. Or Eric. Oh my God, did I say Edward? Eric Northman. He's so hot I don't even know his name. And I'm going to stake Bill Compton. Right. Like Sookie should have done in freaking season 1.
Okay.
I'm too invested in this game.
Count Von Count from Sesame Street.
Oh my God.
Or
OG
Pam
babe.
from True Blood.
Oh my God. You are taking my child love and pitting it against like the most badass lady. I have to take Pam.
So you are going to kill Count Von Count.
With tears in my eyes, I'm going to cry the whole time.
Who's going to count the bats for you? Who's going to count the bats?
The lessons that he has taught us will live on in us. I just love Pam, though. How can you not love Pam? She's so badass.
Yeah,
I just want her to boss me around for the rest of my life, please. Thank you.
All right. Blade from the movie Blade, Wesley Snipes.
Okay.
Or David from The Lost Boys.
David. I gotta go with David. I gotta take David, and I gotta stake. I gotta stake Blade.
Yeah. Sorry, Blade.
But I like Blade. I like all of them.
Okay.
Except Edward. Can I just stake Edward all the times that I have to choose to stake one of the other
just
cool
everybody
vampires?
in Twilight.
Can I just stake him like 8 times?
Yeah. All right. Spike from Buffy.
Okay.
Or Dracula from Dracula Untold, Luke Evans.
Damn, this is a hard one. Luke Evans. Isn't he... Wait, hang on. I'm trying to load a mental picture of him. He's not...
He's the one that your mother really likes. Your mother and I really like in Dracula Untold.
I think I choose him. I think I choose him. I did not have a thing for Spike. I somehow avoided that thing for Spike. I don't know why. It just didn't click for me.
All right. So now we're in the final round. So now we have your favorites. So,
God.
Who are you staking? Who are you taking to the coffin?
Okay.
Lestat or Celine?
I'm gonna say, I'm taking Celine. I have to stake Lestat. I'm so upset. No, she's so hot, though. She's gorgeous.
God. Goodbye, Lestat.
Because if I pick her, she might also do my makeup every day.
True.
So I'm just being practical, guys.
Eric Northman or Pam?
Eric or Pam? Oh my God. That's impossible. They're a package deal.
Mm-mm.
Okay, but realistically, if I staked either one of them, the other one would hate me forever.
And would kill you. Most likely.
Okay, are we suspending that?
No.
Then I'm stuck, man.
No. You have to make a choice.
Okay, in my fictional universe, Pam must double-cross Eric so that I then have to stake her with tears in my eyes and sadness and loss for my dominatrix, beautiful badass lady. I will stake Pam, and I will take Eric Northman.
All right.
He's just so smoking hot.
So now, David from the Lost Boys versus Luke Evans' Dracula.
I have more history with David with the Lost Boys.
All right.
There's just more there. So I'm going to take him, and I'll stake Luke Evans.
Bye, Luke Evans.
Mostly because I keep thinking of Luke Owen. No, Luke Wilson. Owen Wilson's brother. That's literally all. The whole time I'm picturing, like, I know who Luke Evans is, but I can't stop picturing Luke Wilson in my head as a vampire. And he's just like the chillest vampire ever.
All right. Now, David or Eric Northman?
I have to pick Eric Northman. I'm sorry. Bye, David.
So,
I
now
stake
which
David.
one?
I take
You're
Eric.
left with Celine or Eric Northman.
Oh, God. Okay. So, okay, talk to me about this. Do they, like, love me? Like, both of them love me dearly?
Yeah, they're like...
Okay, so they don't have... Because, you know, Eric was kind of a dick on the show. Like, he was a little bit, like, take it or leave it. Like, he was kind of the bad boy, like, whatever.
We're just going to say that this would be your vampire
They're both super in love with
person.
me.
This is who
Okay.
you're going to be with for eternity.
Okay.
This is your partner.
And Celine, too. She's not, like, into that Lycan business. It's all about me.
No, yeah. This is
Okay.
all about you. They're your partner. They're your vampire, like, for forever, for eternity.
Huh. Okay. Gosh, this is so hard. Because she's, like, the ultimate hottest female vampire, and he's, like, the ultimate hottest male vampire. Where does she live?
I'm not sure.
She lives in, like, some, like, fictional Transylvania
She's in, like,
place, right?
Yeah, like that sort of European, like,
Okay.
sort
They
of
don't have air conditioning there.
dark, but it's always cold.
It's always cold. There it is.
Oh.
Decisions made.
But Eric Northman's from that area. Like, he's
Girl,
from that
no.
cold...
Eric Northman lives in
Yeah, but-
Louisiana, honey.
Well, now, okay, so now we're
Okay.
talking... I'm talking about, like, that's where he's from. But
No,
he lives in
bae.
Louisiana now, so
All
that's where
right.
you'll be.
I have to stake Celine with tears in my eyes and sadness. Hopefully she has taught me enough about makeup.
Savage.
And I have to take Eric Northman. And I'm going to just always say his name wrong, apparently. You know, I saw his crossbow when I was in New Orleans.
Really?
Mm-hmm. They have a vampire shop there that is dedicated to, like, just vampires. I think it's called, it's not Esoterica. That's one of my witch shops. The vampire shop is like, I don't know. If you Google vampire shop New Orleans, it'll come up for you. But, yeah, they have, like, all this really, really cool vampire stuff. And one of the things that they have, a lot of the props from True Blood were bought from that store. And they have a crossbow, the crossbow that was Eric Northman's.
Nice.
On the wall of the shop.
Nice.
Very cool. So, that's my vampire beloved.
I have to say, I would, out of all of those... I love David.
I knew you were going to pick David. I freaking knew you were going to pick David.
I love David.
Okay, comma.
I love David.
There's a pause
Listen,
there.
he's like 80s, right? Badass music. Fucking badass style. Like,
Yes.
lots of just fucking leather. Fucking, like, just punk as fuck.
Yeah.
You know? Got that little bit of scruff going, which is always attractive, you know. Hangs out in, like, a dark cave. Totally here for it. But I think at the end of the day, I would probably take Luke Evans as Dracula.
Really?
Yeah.
No, David.
No, I think... All right, so here's... If I was younger party version me, so essentially, if I was Star in The Lost Boys, you know what I mean? That's who I would be.
Yeah.
But Luke Evans, his Dracula is like, he's about family. He's about protecting what's his. He's about, you know, listen, I'm going to fight. I'm going to get my son back. I'm here for my family. And he's a warrior. He will do anything and absolutely everything, including becoming a fucking blood-sucking vampire and save his entire village of people, only to have them hate him.
Yeah, that's true. That was that guy was super, that was a big plus in his column.
Yeah,
I feel like I killed him off too early.
He would probably be I absolutely love him. I'm sorry, David, but it is what it is.
He feels betrayed. David feels very betrayed.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Somewhere he's just like, ooh.
Yeah. He was just
that's true. I remember. Okay, all right. Sorry, I just Googled so that I could see what Luke Evans and Dracula looked like. Yeah, he was pretty hot. I killed him off too early, upon retrospect, because in my mind all I could see was fucking Luke Wilson as a vampire, which, by the way, is hilarious. He should totally do that.
Wow. That's his first words as a vampire.
Oh my god, that's wow. I love
looking
him.
at his fangs in the mirror.
Here's the thing: I love Luke Wilson. I just have a thing for him. I don't know why. I just feel like he's the chillest, coolest, person. I don't know. I just love him. Anyway, so that was fun.
Yeah, I thought
it was a nice note to end on.
I thought it was really interesting. I just wanted to see who was sort of take the cake for you. Who was who you were taking to your coffin, and who I am taking to mine.
Definitely the tall hot Swede. What are you gonna do? Although it was really close with Celine. Maybe I wouldn't stake her. Maybe I would fake stake her with not a real
You'll
wooden
fake stake her or lie and say that you did.
Oh yeah.
But then
and then we have a little
lover.
bit of yes, absolutely.
Off to the side.
That's what I choose. I choose Eric Northman to take to my coffin, and then Celine to be my mistress until he finds out and he's angry for a little bit of time, and then he decides that he can
He'll probably just take both
two
of you.
hot, beautiful,
I don't think
mistress brides.
I don't think Celine would be cool with that, but
yeah, she seems a little territorial.
But I could see Eric being chill with that. So
that's cool. Both of them could be there to service me.
Exactly.
The 5'4", slightly chubby, formerly husky, normal, average-looking human that both of these freaking Olympian gods and goddesses are gonna serve.
Exactly. And I'm gonna have my
real
vampire king.
There you go. Totally attainable.
Exactly.
All right.
Well, that is our episode for tonight.
That is our episode. We have finished our glasses of wine.
The blood. We finished our blood.
Our blood.
Yes.
Our blood, yes.
And we just want to thank you for tuning in on this night. And I will have you know that my patio door just opened by itself.
That's true. It did.
We
burn sage, though, before every episode, so we're good. We're all right. We're cleansed. We might be burning some more.
There isn't another episode.
That's it. This is the end. You never hear from us again. We disappear.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. It has been our pleasure talking vampirism with you guys and going over all of this information. Yes. We look forward to our next episode.
Follow us. We have almost 70 followers on Instagram.
Woo-hoo!
That is sad. I know there are more creepy people out here. We love every single one of you 70, and we want to meet all the rest of you. So follow us. We are the Haunted Heart Podcast on Instagram, and our email is thehauntedheartpodcast@gmail.com. If you have any sort of feedback for us, if you hate us and want to send us hate mail, send it there.
Yes, review us, please.
Rate and review us on iTunes, you guys. We right now, since we just started, obviously we don't have enough ratings and reviews to actually have an actual rating, which is good. But go give us 5 stars if we entertained you at all, and leave a comment and pass us along to your friends. We're literally just beginning, and we know no one, and we will live on word of mouth.
Yeah,
so.
And in the we've got a lot of great stuff still planned for you guys.
Yes.
Lots of really fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been sort of talking about maybe going to a few horror cons, or at least one in the future.
Yeah, to meet you guys.
To sort of maybe spread the word of the Haunted Heart. Maybe meet a couple of really cool people. Yeah. So be on the lookout for that. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, we will keep you posted. So
thanks again, and as always, stay creepy.
Stay creepy.